My name is Mackenzie Petroccia. I'm a senior social media manager at an employer branding agency called Wiser, based in London. I graduated from ODU in December of 2018, and my degree was in English, specifically literature. So, as an undergrad, I actually applied to ODU as part of the biology department. I was going to be a science major. And I did my whole first semester doing science classes, but I signed up for the study abroad trip. But it was a critical literature course studying the Harry Potter series, and I'm a massive Harry Potter fan. Um, and not only was it dissecting the series, but you also got to take a trip to London, which is how I ended up here. But it was just really interesting to take something that I loved like in my spare time that I was interested in and then actually apply like critical theory and think about it beyond just enjoying the magic of the world building. And that's kind of what made me fall in love with the degree. So no, I didn't know I wanted to study English, but I'm glad that I made the choice. And it was actually that class that finally converted me um, to changing and choosing that major. So I live in the UK. I moved here in February of 2020. After I moved to England, I worked in a business center as a front desk receptionist, and they didn't have any sort of online presence. So while I was doing the receptionist work for an empty building, which as you can imagine was boring and soul crushing, I had nothing to do. So I said to the owners, hey, like people are Googling you and you're not even coming up on Google. You don't have a Facebook or a LinkedIn page. People aren't going to be able to find out about you. Let me help you with that. So I created all of their social accounts, kind of started posting about it, getting the tenants that were already in the building to like leave reviews and share their experiences. And when I was doing this at the time, my parents, of course, my dad was like, I paid for you to get a college education. Why aren't you using your degree? But you do. Obviously, there's writing involved, there's creative thinking involved, which you need to be creative really to do any form of writing or to be able to interpret writing, which is something we're taught in the English department. So that was kind of where I started with the social media. Then I moved into social media strategy, which kind of gets a little bit more behind into thinking how other people are interpreting your social media posts, whether you're effectively communicating the message that you want them to perceive. And if you're not, how do you change it and shape that? So I did that at an agency for a little while for a really big tech company. And then I got laid off, which is really unfortunate. I know the tech industry took like a huge hit post COVID. So I was affected by that, and I ended up in a public relations agency for about 4 months, which my minor was in communications, and all the comms classes I took were PR. So that was a thing that I did for a little bit, and I got to run press and media tents at a lot of UK music festivals over the summer, which was excellent, very good experience. But the agency I worked at was really awful and didn't take care of their employees. I was working 16-hour days on weekends and not getting paid for it. And then I found out about Wiser, and they had a social media role open, and I knew I missed doing social media. And not only that, but they were an employer branding agency. So they were making sure that companies are looking after their people and actually following through on all awesome benefits and stuff that they offer for people. So it just sounded really good for me. It sounded something that was impactful because social media is fun, right? Everybody likes scrolling on TikTok and sending memes to their friends. But what we do has actual tangible impact, and that's really nice to see. Obviously, with employer branding, everybody immediately thinks LinkedIn. And yes, we do post a lot on LinkedIn. But I actually do a lot of Instagram. I do quite a bit of TikTok content as well. And we're also kind of starting to dabble into YouTube, which is really interesting because I am not a video creator. So that's been cool to kind of like navigate that. One of the awesome things at Wiser is a lot of times when you take on a social media role, everybody expects you to do all the things, and that's making the videos, editing them, writing the caption, all that stuff. I actually don't have to do any of that. We have all an in-house creative team. So I'll come up with an idea or a concept of what I want to do. We'll make sure that the client's happy with that. And then we have films teams and editing teams that will actually do that work, and that's their craft and they're really good at it. So we can make something really beautiful with me kind of directing it. So that's kind of in a nutshell my career journey. So I think the most obvious thing is, of course, copywriting, because, we have to learn punctuation and grammar and how to write, but not how to write well and following the rules, but how to communicate effectively what you're trying to say. Um, Also, the idea of word counts, which was the bane of my existence as a student. But when you're posting on Twitter and you have a character limit, not just a word count. So thinking about value per word, and then that taps into, am I using the best word to really communicate what I'm trying to say and get my message to people? But also thinking about your audiences and who are you talking to and why are you trying to talk to them and how are they best going to understand you? So there's that. And then what I mentioned earlier is a lot of the data analysis that we do. So to make sure that our posts are performing well and reaching the right people, we look back end at some of the insights and then we have to say, okay, these are just numbers. What do they actually mean? And that data interpretation and being able to tell a client this post did well because of this, or this post didn't do well. And so this is what we have to do next. Being able to do that, I think, is a skill that I really learned from writing all these different argumentative essays where you read a book and then I'm trying to convince a professor this is what I understood from this and this is why. I think that's a transferable skill that people might not realize. And that's a really big one, and that's a lot of what I do. So there's that. There's also strategizing, which again is a storytelling piece and kind of combines everything that I just said, being able to effectively communicate, identifying what a client's problem is and how we're going to fix that, and then taking them on that journey for this is how we're going to fix it and this is why it's going to work. And then just being creative. I mean, any kind of writing, you have to have a spark of creativity, and that's really important in this job. Still read quite a lot. It's such a boring thing to say that, like, oh my God, I'm in this book club and it's so much fun. And like, that makes me sound so old and lame. But book clubs are amazing. I have a couple different ones. We have some here in the office that I work at. I have some with my friends. And one of the ones that I go to, we actually, none of us are ever reading the same book. We just talk about whatever book we're reading at the minute and then like give each other recommendations and do swaps like that. Everybody reads all different kinds of things. And I think that's really important now at the minute as well, particularly with the election that we just had and how divisive people are. It's really important to understand where other people are coming from. And I think books really give us a way to do that. If you can just quiet your mind for a bit and read what someone else is saying, even if it's a character, that's still an author's experience and there's a message that they're trying to communicate. Might be different to what you interpret and what you take away, but it's really important to kind of broaden your perspectives in that way. So I think that's how I'm still using my English degree. This might be counterintuitive and not something ODU wants to put out, but I graduated a semester early because I was just ready to graduate and be done and do the next part of my life. Um, so I was a commuter student. I lived off campus and drove into class every day. And I worked full time while I was studying full time. So like I didn't live. I just worked and did my classes. And I think I missed out on quite a lot of things. Like there's stuff I did still do, and I do still have friends that I met during my time at ODU. But I think I would have gone to more and like experienced more of student life. Whether that was living on campus for a semester or just trying to immerse myself in it more. In my first semester as a freshman, I was like really gung ho about everything and like joined a bunch of clubs, worked in student government, and then when I found out that I could like fast track and get done early, like I just focused on that and stopped doing the extracurriculars, when really that probably would have enhanced my experience a lot more. Um, I don't think I would change anything because it was something that I wanted to do and it got me to where I wanted to be. But I think for students coming in, I think it's just really important to obviously attend your classes, don't skip them, but also go and enjoy and have fun while you're at college because it is over really quick and then you never get that time back. An English degree opens a lot more doors than you think. Don't feel limited by what you thought you were going to do when you chose your major. Let yourself find something that you really enjoy, and you'll see that it crosses over in more ways than you would have ever thought.